So we've looked at a number of theoretical concepts this week. That means that we're looking at hands-on concepts next week. Then sometime around next week or the week after, we'll be trying a couple of demo questions to see how much we know about the modules that we've looked at so far. Ideally, we're supposed to take the first four modules and then take some review questions, then take hands-on projects in the first four modules because somehow they are connected to one another. So if we learn only the first one and then go straight to AWS environment, we may get stuck at some point. So the reason I'm saying that is so that you go through everything before next week, so that when we're talking about EC2, you know what we're talking about. If we're talking about SES, you know what we're talking about, um, and so on and so forth. Then also remember that you can practice as much as you want, and that you have my number, so you can reach out to me anytime. Amazon SES is simple email service. The brother to SES is SNS, simple notification service. And I'll give you some use cases. So you know that thing that happens when you log into a stolen bank account, and the minute you log in, you automatically receive an email notification that says um, there was a successful login of your account in Lagos, Nigeria. Or did you just try to log in near Abuja? Please confirm if this was you. That is simple notification service. You will mix it up. You will mix up simple email service and simple notification service if you're not careful. And it's slightly inconsequential, but the professionals know the difference between the two. So you should be a professional. So you should know the difference between simple email service and simple notification service. So you know that thing that happens when Amazon sends you an email. Let's not use Amazon because this is already Amazon. So let's think of Jumia. So Jumia sends you an email that says we're doing 40% sales, discount sales on Black Friday, or we're doing 70% on Black Friday. That is not a notification. That is an email. So they're not alerting you that somebody just logged into your account, or did you try to log in, or are you trying to change your password? That is an official marketing email from Jumia. That is SES, simple email service, is what if Jumia uses AWS, they would use AWS SES. But if you try to change your password and they send you a 6-digit PIN, that will be SNS, simple notification service. If you log in, if somebody tries to log into your Instagram and you receive something that says there was an attempted login to your account near Ireland, that is simple notification service. If you fail this one, I'll flog you 5 strokes of the cane. The difference between simple notification service and simple email service. Why is it important? In order to send simple email service, you need EC2. You may need EC2. Let's put it that way. In order to send simple notification service, SNS, you may need Lambda. And don't worry about what Lambda is. Don't worry about what EC2 is. Just keep it somewhere in your head because, of course, we've not done EC2 yet. We've not done Lambda yet, which is why I'm saying everything is connected to the other. So if you are doing SES and you're going to Lambda, you see that you're already misfiring in the wrong direction, right? And if you're doing SNS and you're going to EC2 only, you see that you're going in the wrong direction. And yet, two of them are email services. So, which is why you should know the difference between SES and SNS. So, for SES, you would typically hit the send button. Do you understand? So, you would typically hit send or send that, like schedule this email to go live at 1 a.m. or 2 p.m. That's usually for SES. So, for broad emails, for mass emails is I'm sending to like 10,000 users. For SNS, even while you sleep, you expect the computer to be able to automatically notify the person that somebody was trying to log into their accounts. And that is not what you do with EC2. That's what you do with Lambda because Lambda has more automation built in it. Again, don't worry about what lambda means. Just keep it somewhere in your head. That for EC2, for SES, you may need EC2. For SNS, you may need lambda. Sometimes you can do it without EC2, which is why I'm saying may, like it's optional. So what is SES? It's a simple email service. That's what SES means. It is cloud-based. It has versatile use case. It has seamless integration. Cloud-based means what we already know. It is in the cloud. AWS, it's one of the 200 services provided by AWS. Ideally, you can do email marketing with MailChimp. You may know what MailChimp is. You can do it with SendPulse. You can do it with Sendy. You can do it with there's this one I use, Substack. You can do it with Substack. You can do it with Gmail, your normal Gmail, the way you send emails, and many other email service providers. But of course, all the advantages that we have learned about why people would choose cloud, one, why people would choose AWS, two, are the reasons why you choose to use Amazon SES. What are the advantages? Do you remember? It is fast. It is easily scalable. It is efficient. It is cost effective. You remember those things we learned about. So those are some advantages. Because if I'm to send 1,000 emails on SendPulse, I'll spend about $30 just per month just to send to 1,000 email subscribers. Here, I can send around 62,000 emails for free. Do you understand the difference now? So everything I can do with email marketing on MailChimp, SendPulse, Sendy, Substack, and a host of other email service providers, expensive. If I was to do it on AWS, not so expensive. However, I may not want to go through the entire setup of AWS to send 4 emails. I could just do that with Gmail. Do you understand? So if I'm only sending emails to 4 people, I could just use my Gmail. But if I'm sending to 10,000 people like Jumia is, Jumia has so many customers. Facebook has millions of users. Instagram has millions of users. They can't be using Gmail. They can't be using MailChimp. They can't be using Substack. They'll deplete all their resources. So they'll just use AWS. Do you understand? But the AWS product is the SES. I hope you get it now. Then versatile use cases. We can use it for a lot of things. So we can use it for transactional emails. Transactional emails are, if I receive a credit alert, my bank is going to notify me. If I receive a debit alert, my bank is going to notify me. If I buy something on Seller is going to notify me. We can use it for newsletters. So Monday motivation, Friday TGIF, whatever the newsletter people want to send to me, they can use it. We can use it for large scale bulk email campaigns. We already said that. So instead of paying $30 per 1,000 people, I can use AWS and do it for almost free. Then seamless integration. Seamless integration is what we spoke about earlier. When I said you may use EC2, and I said don't worry about what EC2 means because we haven't done it. It's part of our curriculum, so we'll do it. You may use Lambda, and I also said don't worry about what Lambda is. I just want you to familiarize yourself with the jargons. We'll get there eventually. Remember that if you have questions at any point, or if I'm speaking French, you can let me know. I don't want to talk to myself. And you will need this knowledge for where we're going. So better understand it now before we get there. Now, what is SES? It has strategic advantage. We can leverage Amazon scale. We have spoken a lot about scale, so we're not going to talk so much about it. The fact that I can send one email and I can send 20,000 emails and I'll not have to change so much. The system will automatically scale and balance the load. That's auto scaling, that's what they call it, and load balancer. We'll learn what those things are. But the point we're bringing out is that I can easily scale without having to change infrastructure. The second thing is that I can simplify operations. First thing to do is just use the search bar to write the name of what I want, SES, and we'll look at that. And it will come. Second thing to do is to ask, what should I do? I promise you can ask them. So the beautiful thing about AWS is if I keep my cursor on top of a word, keep it there, like just keep the cursor, you know what the cursor is, on top of the word, it will give me insight about what I can do with it. It is very brilliant, and we'll get there very soon. And then the third is cost-effective pricing. So we already know that it is cost-effective, so we're not going to spend time on that. If I'm moving too fast, you can let me know. If I'm speaking French, you can also let me know. Then what are the core features? Flexible sending options. We will know what, okay, Syria, please go ahead. Your mic is still muted in case you're talking.
Okay, sorry. I said, please, can you like go over the the former slide, that first place of integration?
Which one?
Yeah, this place, yes. From leverage Amazon skills, yeah.
Okay. Um, is it this exact slide you're talking about or another one before it?
The other one, the third slide.
This one?
Yeah, that's it, yes.
This one. Okay. Strategic advantages. So what are the advantages of AWS normally minus SES? What are the advantages of AWS? Syria.
It's actually scalable, it's cost effective.
What else?
Um, it is actually it has this pay as you go feature.
Yes, what else? There are like seven major ones. So you've mentioned three. Scalable, cost-effective, pay as you go. What else can you think of?
Those are the ones I can think of. Ah, it's automated, yes.
Automation, that automation part is very important. And that
Those
automation,
are the ones I can remember.
yes, the automation part is the one I wanted you to mention. The automation
Okay.
part is closely related to machine learning and AI integration. Now, what AI integration machine learning means is that the computer is so smart. So many things that you would have had to manually provision or manually do, the computer will automatically do it by itself. So if I had to send emails with Gmail, for example, Gmail will not notify me that this. Okay, so if I had to send something with Gmail, it will just remain in the drafts. I know you know what draft is. So because it didn't deliver. But if I'm using SES, that's a simple email service, it will tell me that I sent 1,000 emails and 700 delivered. These are the 300 that did not deliver. And then it will ask me, do I want to resend to the remaining 300 people? And then when I'm resending it, it is smart enough to tell me that this may be the reason why these 300 did not deliver. So do you want to change this or that or those? And that is just brilliant. That is very, very brilliant. That's AI integration and a bit of automation because I can program the emails to go out at a certain time. Those are some advantages of AWS. So it makes the operation simpler. It is easier, straightforward. There is another problem that people have when they send a lot of emails. The emails go to spam. If you have done a lot of email marketing in the past, your emails go to spam. When you use AWS, the chances of your email going to spam is less because of IP reputation management. So as long as you have been able to verify that you're who you say you are and that you have a legitimate business, AWS will be able to bypass the whole spam filters that MailChimp, SendPulse, Sendy, Sendbird have. Those are names of email service providers, by the way. Um, and then your emails will deliver straight to inbox, but without you having to do a lot of things on your end. Then the system will automatically update as new features and updates are released on AWS. I want to find out if you have other questions, and I'll spend as much time as you want on this slide, okay? More questions? Okay, great, great. So let's get to work. Uh, okay, core features of for powerful email management, flexible sending options. SDK is software development kits. And we'll not spend time on software development kits because we've not started building websites. So when we start building websites using EC2, of course, and static websites, we will understand more about the software development kits, the SDK. But what we will focus on is the SMTP because the SMTP is more closely related to marketing. And the SMTP is the simple mail transfer protocol. I will try to make that not too technical, but it simply means the list of instructions, the set of instructions that your computer will follow to be able to deliver those emails to your inbox. So the SMTP is a simple mail transfer protocol that makes it possible for emails to be able to go from sender to receiver. And if that person is going to reply, or if it is going to set to do not reply, you know what a do not reply is. If UBA emails you and tells you that your account balance is something, 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 you know that you cannot email back UBA and tell them that that's not your account balance because that email is set to do not reply. So that's the transfer protocol that that email follows. So if it is set to reply, if it is set to receive responses, if it is set to forward reply, if it is set to use an alias. An alias is sometimes I mask my sender email because I don't want you to send me emails. So you're not going to know that the sender is so at this.com. It's going to be showing something else. All of those transfer protocols is usually under under SMTP typically. But what you are able to do then is that you are able to set up the entire simple mail transfer protocol. When you set up and don't worry, we'll share a screen and look at all of those when we start looking at the workshops at the labs. When you set up SMTP, it will give you a username and a password. Of course, you know that when you're sending emails, your Gmail address has email and password. So your SMTP will provide a username and a password. If you have to connect your email provider to an app like Sterling Bank, so that when credit alert enters the bank, the email will automatically, because it's connected, the API is connected, will automatically send an email to the person to say you have received a credit alert. If it is debit, you receive the debit alert. If password changes, would you like to change your password? And all of those. If it's transactional emails and all. So there are flexible sending options. I can easily program my SMTP to do a lot of things easily, conveniently. When we get to lab, it will make more sense to you. Then there are triggers for sending and receiving emails. This is the part that I was explaining about AWS Lambda. Now, there's something called event-driven architecture. Big English, and we'll get there eventually. Event-driven architecture means everything that happens as an activity on your software is called an event. So I'll explain what I mean. When somebody logs in, that's one event. Logs out, event. Change password, event. Request for OTP, event. Request to change password, event. Just think of anything that you would do on a software. Each of them is called an event. Do you understand? So now I can program my SES to respond to it's called a trigger now, to be triggered by certain events. So that means when the person successfully logs in, that's an event, it will trigger an email notification to say somebody has logged in. You can't do that with EC2. So you do that with Lambda. Do you understand? If the person changes password, for example, that is another event. So it will trigger the event. The event will trigger the action and it will send a 6-digit password. That's a one-time password. Do you understand how events work now? So all of those emails cannot be done with Gmail because you will not always be awake to send somebody an email to say, we see that you're trying to change your password at 1:45 a.m. Here's the 6-digit password. Here's the 6-digit PIN, yes? So change your password. So that trigger has to be automatically programmed And that is something that you can achieve with SES and with SNS. Typically, it will be an SNS feature. That's a notification feature, typically. But sometimes you can set that with SES. Why can you set that with SES? Because, for example, the reason I'm mentioning use cases is so that when you begin to use those things, you will be able to notice how this software, how these solutions are built, are used. Then when customers get to you, customers cannot explain trigger or event-driven architecture. They will just tell you the problem they have. So the average client will tell you that I want when somebody tries to buy something, but the person is not able to buy it, let the person receive an email. You see the very limited, archaic way that they explain what they want, and that's an event-driven architecture. So some abandoned carts, for example, I go to Jumia and I try to buy something, but I don't buy it because the money is more than what I have bargained for. So I leave. Jumia will automatically send me an email to say that they saw that I was trying to buy so and so, but I didn't finish the purchase and that they have added it to carts, waiting for me to come back. That is an event, and it is possible with SES, simple email service. Now let's look at strong authentication. Authentication is as the word implies, so it is kind of like security. SPF is a sender policy framework, and a sender policy framework makes it possible for me to be able to authenticate, that's to be able to prove that I am the person who is behind this email. So if I have very strong SPF, it will be harder for somebody else to try to send something from something that looks like my domain because they will not be able to prove that they are me, that they work in my company. Do you understand? The basic lesson I wanted to pick from strong authentication is that there is very strong security that makes it hard for somebody else to claim that they are from me. Why is it hard? The fact that I am setting up my AWS account does not mean I can just set up jumia.com as sender domain. So when they ask me what is your website address, I cannot just write jumia.com. If I write jumia.com, it will ask me to infuse a line of code into the back end of Jumia websites, maybe on the header, maybe on the footer, maybe on the cart part, which of course, if you build websites, you know that you cannot get access to back end of a person's website unless you're the person that builds or owns the website. Other times, it will ask me to copy the C name record. That is what they call it, C, capital letter C, NAME, or DNS record, that's the domain name server record. And those are credentials that I cannot just pick from the gutter unless I'm the person who builds, I'm the person who owns the Jumia website. So because of that strong authentication, people cannot just send something and say that they are from Jumia because of the strong authentication. And that's possible with AWS. Then secure email storage. When we talk about storage, you know we cannot talk about storage without talking about S3. S3 is the service over one of the over 200 services that AWS provides, and that's S3. And if you remember the last time we explained the difference, oh, we didn't explain the difference. We just saw you that there's a difference between storage and database. So when we spoke about RDS or relational database, and we spoke about S3 for simple storage service, SSS. You don't call it SSS, please. It's called S3. Do you understand? So the fact that I can save incoming emails securely through S3 buckets is a desirable feature. But remember that S3, if I'm speaking French, tell me. If I'm speaking French, tell me. S3 is not SES. Lambda is not SES. EC2 is not SES. So you see that on this one page, we've spoken of at least three things. There's SES, which is one of the 200 services provided by AWS. One, simple email service. There's Lambda, and Lambda is an automation feature, which was what Sylvia was talking about, automation and stuff. You don't exactly achieve automation with SES. That's what I want you to get. You integrate, that's what they call it. You integrate Lambda into your SES. So this is what I mean. If I am designing on Canva and I create the video like the motion, let's put it that way. I create the motion graphics on Canva, but I want a song. Now, by the way, you can infuse songs on Canva. But let's assume that I cannot infuse song like a soundtrack on Canva. What I will do is I will copy the video file, the motion file I've created, and take it to CapCut, and then I'll add video. So you see that I'm integrating my CapCut to my Canva. So when I talk about automation, it is not exactly SES feature, but the fact that I can integrate Lambda, which is automation feature, to my SES is what makes automation possible. When I talk about storage, you cannot store with SES, but what you store with is simple storage service, which is S3 buckets. So you integrate that storage into your SES. And you will understand why I'm separating them, because you don't use SES for storage. You use S3 for storage. You can't use S3 for email. You use SES for email. So let's continue. Seamless integration with ecosystem. Oh, that's what I was explaining, blah, 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 blah. SNS is simple notification service. So the one-time passwords that you receive on your phone is made possible with SNS, not SES. Then the OTP, oh, that's one-time password. The notification that you just logged in or that you just logged out or that there was a successful login or there was an attempted login, all of those notifications are made possible on SNS. Then automation feature, which is something I've spoken about so much, is made possible with Lambda. Then identity and access management. Please give me a minute. Okay, so identity and access management is what we're doing on Monday. That is where we're setting up your AWS accounts. Is can be easily integrated with SES. Now you may think, why are we saying that I can set up IAM on SES? If I'm speaking French, tell me, because you will need this knowledge when we start looking at the lab. You will start asking, why is this way and that way? And it is part of what we did in the whatever, in the theoretical session. So identity and access management is a beautiful feature on AWS. And I will explain why it is a beautiful feature. You know that usually if you have the email and password of a person's Facebook account, you can do everything that the person can do. I like to use cases, and I like to use use cases that you are familiar with. So I assume everybody has access to Facebook. So the minute you give me a Facebook email and password, now Messenger is trying to set up IAM, Identity and Access Management. And the reason I'm using these use cases is the average user uses these things but doesn't know how it works. What I mean is the fact that you are connected to a person's Facebook, depending on their settings, does not mean you can read their messages. If you have ever experienced it, you should let me know. If you've not experienced it, go and try it. Depending on the person's settings, the fact that you have logged into their Facebook accounts does not mean you can access their messenger. It will ask you, do you want Facebook to be able to access Messenger? So they set up IAM in such a way, that identity and access management, in such a way that even if the person has access to the Facebook, which is like where they have friends and all and so on, they will not have access to your messenger unless you give them access. On identity and access management, which is IAM, I can also set what is called privileges. So privileges means I want this person to be able to send, to be able to read emails that come, but I don't want the person to be able to send emails. Or I want this person to be able to send emails, but not be able to delete emails. Or I want this person to not be able to read my messages or send messages, but only be able to pay for my services. And if you pause for a minute, you can already think of use cases. So all of us are connected to the same AWS account, but Sylvia is in finance. If Sylvia is in finance, she has no business reading our emails. Do you understand? So what we want is when Sylvia logs in, let Sylvia be able to pay for our services every month, be able to generate invoice for used services every month, and we're good to go. But if I do not set it that way, Sylvia will just come in and read and go and do one or two things, and that's not what she ought to be doing because we did not set it in such a way that she has restricted privileges. And we don't want to create different, we can't even create different AWS accounts for everybody. It's the same company. So everybody in the company should be using the same AWS, but with different privileges. Our interns should not be able to delete because intern will show you shege. So the intern comes in, deletes what they're not supposed to delete, permanently delete, and it's gone forever. And there's nothing you can do to them. So AWS allows you to set up IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. So those are policies that ensure that only authorized users can send or receive emails. Then there's CloudWatch and CloudTrail. We can monitor sending and receiving metrics. So what I was explaining earlier, if I'm speaking French, tell me, I can send 1,000 emails. It will tell me that 750 delivered, 250 did not deliver. It can tell me 500 people have received my email, but only 400 have opened it. You see how the CloudTrail works? It can tell me that 400 opened, but only 52 clicked the link that was attached to the email. It can tell me that 4 people unsubscribed after my last email. So you see the beautiful thing with AWS SES, those beautiful features that make it possible for me to make better informed decisions. So now I know that these people are opening my emails, but they're not clicking the link. Now I know that after I wrote Justice for Chanya, for example, that's an inside joke, by the way. If you don't get it, it's fine. That 500 people unfollowed me. They unsubscribed from my email list because they don't want to hear that stuff. Do you understand? Or when I spoke about politics, many people were offended, and that's why they kept unsubscribing. So I know what my problem is. So these are some 4 major features of AWS. The fact that of SES, please, the fact that I can connect it to SNS, which is simple notification service, the fact that I can connect it to automation, which is Lambda, the fact that I can restrict access of each user, which is IAM, Identity and Access Management, the fact that I can track results, which is CloudWatch and CloudTrail. Then advanced deliverability tool. So there's something called a VDM. A VDM is a virtual deliverability manager. What it does is what I was trying to explain to you earlier, where it tells you, it gives you recommendations. It provides insights. So it tells you why many people are unable to receive your emails. It tells you that you should check your domain, that this domain address looks fishy, looks spammy, looks suspicious. People do not trust the veracity of your domain. It gives you actionable recommendations, tells you to clear cache, tells you to clear inbox, tells you to delete unsubscribers, tells you to do this, tells you to do that. It gives you very smart advice that you can apply. And then it has automation feature too. So it can automatically delete people who have not opened your email for 3 months. It can automatically delete people who have not opened your email for 6 months. It can automatically delete people who have been banned, who have been restricted, who have been removed. It can automatically do a lot of things that will improve results for you. Then, what are the global endpoints? I would explain what parallel IP warming is, and I hope that you do not forget. Multi-region sending is something we've spoken about last time we were here, when I explained how redundancy works. So we said, even if there's a problem with one availability zone, it will send email from a different availability zone for you, just so that your stuff can go through. Now, there's something called automatic load balancing. And I will explain. So when my laptop is full, things begin to lag. And the funny thing is, for people who use a C drive and a D drive, the D drive could be full. If you don't know what a C drive and a D drive is, don't worry, you won't understand this analogy. The C drive could be full and the D drive is empty, and your computer will lag. Do you understand? But for automatic load balancing, the C drive cannot be full while your D drive is empty. If your C drive is 1 terabyte and your D drive is 1 terabyte, and there's 900 gigabyte of information, it will send 450 gigabytes to C drive. And guess what? Send 450 gigabytes to D drive so that the two of them will balance. You see how beautiful and brilliant it is? So that you don't have a computer lagging when you can easily distribute load across multiple availability zones. And for people like us who only send like 1 gig of information, don't worry, it's not your business, it doesn't concern you. So we're talking about people like Snapchat, people like Facebook, like Netflix, like Spotify. All of these platforms use AWS, by the way. So instead of, or if all the users, the heavy users are in, or China doesn't use a lot of that. So let's assume that they're in Africa. It will distribute the load in such a way that Africa will not suffer. It will bounce as many of it as it has to and send them to other availability zones, other regions if necessary, so that everything is equalized. Parallel IP warming is a desirable feature that you can take advantage of when you work for a multinational company, MNC, that's what they call them. So if Temu is very successful, you know what Temu is, Temu, is very successful in China and their IP rating is very good in China, they have good credibility in China, but they want to enter the African market. Without AWS, they would have to build a new reputation in the African market. When I'm talking about reputation, I can't think of a different word to explain what reputation is. Just know the dictionary meaning of reputation, and that works for you, okay? But with parallel IP warming, they can transfer the good reputation. When I'm talking about reputation now, I'm talking about, check the dictionary meaning of reputation, the good name that they have, but not from a place of good name, from a place of praiseworthiness. Good name from a place of nobody has ever been scammed using their IP address. They have never sent spam, they have never sent scam or pornographic content, for example. That is called reputation. They can transfer that good reputation they have into the African market, and African visitors will not see them as a new domain. So I'll try to take that again because you will need it. If Temu has been very successful in China and they've been doing business for the past 10 years, but they've never done anything in Africa, if they were not using AWS, when they move to Africa with the same Temu address, they would have to start the whole ranking again, Google indexing again, search engine optimization again, search engine everything from zero because African markets doesn't know them. But if they're using AWS, SES, they will be able to transfer that good reputation they have from China into Nigeria, into Africa, for immediate readiness to send high volume of emails. So if they were using a different provider, it will limit what they can do within a period of time because it will look like a new domain address. But if they're using AWS, the same good reputation that they've had over the years, they can transfer it here and be able to send to millions of users at the same time. Why is this important? If you are sending, if I set up a new email infrastructure, think of any email service provider, from speaking friends tell me, they will tell me that I can send X amount of emails within a stipulated period. So if I'm using Q server, some of you know what Q server is. It will tell me that I can send 50. That's what Q server will tell you. You can only send 50 emails per hour using Q server as a newcomer. So if you send more than 50 emails within a 1 hour period, they will shadow ban your account, or they'll restrict it, or they'll freeze it, or they'll disable it, depending on how fast you go. Do you understand? Because you don't have a reputation for sending good emails. But if you now build a good reputation over time, they will allow you to send 100, 500 per hour. So imagine you're using AWS SES and you've been able to successfully send 500 per hour over the years, and then you move to the African market. AWS SES will allow you to continue to send 500 per hour without restricting you to back to 50 per hour because they don't know you. I've spoken too much about parallel IP warming. So let's go to simplify console setup. You know now that once you just hit the search bar and write SES, it will come. So you can easily set up. You should also know that you can duplicate and manage settings. So if I run 5 businesses, I can set up 5 SES. That's 5 different services for simple email service. What I mean is, if multi-choice, multi-choice owns DSTV, owns Star Times, owns GoTV, I think. So if I am the AWS practitioner for the cloud practitioner for multi-choice, I can use my multi-choice AWS account to set up an infrastructure for DSTV. So this is the email list for DSTV subscribers. And then I'll duplicate it and rename the second one to be Star Times. And then I'll duplicate it and make the third one to be GoTV. Do you understand? So if I am the AWS provider for Meta, I can create one infrastructure for Facebook. I'll use the same AWS account, but be able to create a different console for Instagram and then create a third console for WhatsApp. Okay, Sylvia, ask me a question.
Okay, so you just made mention that you can actually duplicate on the AWS console. So, for instance, what if is it possible, first of all, to work for two different companies like Meta and let me say MultiChoice? Because you know they have subsidiary companies under them, like you said. MultiChoice is the owner of StarTimes, DSTV, and maybe GoTV too. Then Meta, Facebook, and the rest. So is it possible for me to, as an AWS professional now for those two companies, to work for those two companies and also create duplicates for their different subsidiaries? And how is it possible to do so?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's look at it this way. When you work for multi-choice, you're not going to be an independent contractor. Most likely not an independent contractor. You'd have to be an employee. When you are an employee, you are working on multi-choice AWS environment, not Sylvia's AWS environment. So what multi-choice will do is they'll give you an email and a password. So Sylvia at multichoice.com, for example. And then they will set up the IAM, that's the identity and access management, to put restrictions as they want on that account. So using that multi-choice account, you can access everything DSTV, StarTime, GoTV, and any other product that multi-choice has. But what if Sylvia as a human being also works for Netflix? When you wake up on Monday, if you need to work for AWS, you will be using your AWS, your multi-choice account, and you need to work for multi-choice. You'll be using your multi-choice account to do everything that relates to multi-choice. And then if you have to work for Netflix later in the day, you will log out of your multi-choice account and log into your AWS account. Whether you will be able to use the same AWS account to work for multi-choice and Netflix is yes, but whether it is advisable is no. So that if the billing is coming, the billing will go to the person. Like the billing will go to multi-choice or the billing will go to Netflix, and not one billing for the two companies. So you can set up different AWS accounts for different companies, but you can use the same AWS accounts for different subsidiaries of the same company. Do you understand the English I just spoke?
Yeah, so what I understand from what you said is that um just like when you are working with a firm, they give you, like, let me say your their email like at multichoice.com. So you have access to whatever things that multichoice uses. And in order for you to have access to something else, like another platform, again, they have to grant you access. So it's not advisable for you to actually like fuse the two management together. So that's what I could pick from what you said.
Yes, and that's the point. But if that company has different subsidiaries, you can do all of them under the same company. Yeah, that's it. Brilliant question, by the way. So, enhanced user experience. We know that AWS is supposed to be hard, but they built it in such a way that there is guide for everything. So I was telling you earlier that if you hover over something, it will give you more information and insight about that thing. Now, robust security and compliance features. When we look at security, we'll talk more about this. TLS is transport layer security. Ideally, when people send emails, they can forward it to somebody else. Like spammers can forward your email and then do what they want to do with it. So they can set conditional statements on your Gmail in such a way that instead for this email to go straight to this point, it will first go straight to this inbox. It will first divert to this inbox before delivering. But using AWS, they cannot do that to your email because there's enhanced TLS. TLS is transport layer security. That means as it's going, nothing can happen to it. It will get there encrypted, just like you sent it. Then there's spam and virus scanning, so that when you are sending something that looks suspicious, AWS is going to warn you. Are you sure about this app that you're sending via email? Are you sure you want to send it? So it will scan. Regulatory compliance is what I've spoken about during our first session when I spoke about compliance and why it is a desirable feature for AWS. GDPR is what the policy that um, many countries use for securing data, like data protection. So when I begin to upload so many email addresses, AWS is going to want to try to confirm that I have the consent of those people to send them emails. And then I'll say yes or I'll say no. I would also have to provide information as to how I got those email addresses. Then S3 encryption. We know that S3 is for storage, simple storage service. So if I have to encrypt sensitive data, I can connect my S3 to my SES and I will be able to do that. Now, in terms of cost, I said you can send first 62,000 emails for free. And that is perfect because I don't know how many emails you want to send. So instead of paying $30 per 1,000 email, now multiply that by 62, that's almost $180,000 is what I would have spent. But I'll be able to do it for free here. The standard pricing. After that one, after your first 62,000 emails, the ones that they charge you for now is $0.10 per 1,000 emails. Contrast this with what these guys charge. MailChimp. MailChimp charges about $30. So instead of paying $30 per 1,000 email on MailChimp, I'll pay $0.10 per 1,000 email here. Then if it has attachments, you know what an attachment is now, like PDF, docs, and other stuff, I'll pay $0.12. And this is just perfect because contrast it to MailChimp and you see that it is a steal offer. You can also set this as your own business. You'll be helping businesses to send bulk emails and they'll be paying you money every month. But we'll get there when we start looking at how you can monetize what you're learning. Then, if you want to set up a dedicated IP address, you pay $24.95 per month. And we'll talk about dedicated IP address when we start building static websites or other kinds of websites. Now, so why SES? It is reliable and scalable. We have already flogged that so much, so we're not going to talk so much about it. You can easily scale and you can rely on it. Flexible pricing, we've spoken about it. Your first 62,000 emails you send for free. After that one, your 1,000 per 1,000 emails, you pay $0.10. If it has an attachment, so you pay $0.12. And that's very good pricing. Seamless AWS integration. I can connect my SES to my EC2. Don't worry about what EC2 means. I can connect my SES to my Lambda. Don't worry about what Lambda means. We will get there, okay? I can connect my AWS, my SES to my S3. Don't worry about what it means. I can connect it to a relational database. We will look at those as well. Then I can build applications. So we will look at when we start building infrastructure as a service, when we're looking at deployment models. I can connect it to my mobile app. So if I build the Sterling Bank app, if I build CUDA app, if I build a fintech app or any kind of app, I can connect SES so that when people log in, they will be notified. Remember what we spoke about event-driven architecture. That is the end of my TED talk. I want to find out if you have questions for me. Okay. So try to review all the videos I've shared. All the links are in
Yes.
the same. Okay, Sylvia, please go ahead.
Yeah, so there's this question I have. So when you were sharing your slide under SES, I
Mhm.
saw something like AWS Lambda under it, and you made mention that SES you can maybe use EC2, while SNS you maybe use Lambda. So I don't know why AWS Lambda was under SES when we were discussing. I think on the fourth slide or something like that.
Yes, I'm trying to go back to it. Give me a minute. You're very brilliant. So remember what I said that two of them can be used interchangeably. But the best use case, I believe you can see the screen now, that's the one you're talking about, is SES. Now, it's SNS for notification, SES for email communication. Remember that email communication, like notification, is email communication. This is what I mean. If I want to send an email that says you have abandoned carts, come back here using this link, that is an email. If I want to send an email that says there was a successful login to your account, if this was you, take this action. If it wasn't, ignore. That is also an email. But the difference between the two is the fact that one is for notification, like solely dedicated to notification, and therefore solely dedicated to notification, and therefore it's a simple notification service like OTP, and it is an automatic trigger. But the other one is also an email, and it can be a notification, but it's not always a notification. So if I want to send marketing emails that says we're doing 40% discount, Black Friday sales, we're doing Sunday weekend deals, that is an email, simple email service. But if I also want to set something that looks like oh, you were trying to buy this thing, but you didn't exactly buy it, that's not an OTP, oh. That's not a one-time password. And that's not a notification. That's a marketing email. But that marketing email is an if I put it this way, I'll complicate it if I tell you now that it's an event-driven architecture. But what I mean by event-driven architecture is the fact that the reason they receive that notification, and it's not a notification email, by the way, but the reason they receive that email is because they tried to buy something in carts, but did not exactly buy. But that is not a one-time password. That is a marketing email. So because it's a marketing email, I would use SES. If I use SNS, I may not have so much problem and I may not have committed any sin. But the best to use for that case will be SES because I'm not sending a one-time password that has to be automatically generated. I am sending a marketing transactional email, but based on the event that just got triggered. Did I successfully confuse you?
Yeah, I understand it now
Great.
in a way, Sha, but I know that I'll be able to understand like when we start using the feature.
Yes, we'll start using it. Yes. And that's why it is the very first thing I said before I even started that you're going to mix up the difference between SES as S and SNS. But yes, we'll get there eventually. Okay. And well done. That's a brilliant question. So try to watch all the videos before next week so that when we're looking at those things, they will make sense to us. Remember, you can text me anytime. As long as you're talking about work, I can listen to you till the next morning. Okay, guys. So we'll talk again. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.